Listen, if you call yourself a Cowboys fan, you need to stop everything you are doing right now, because what just dropped out of Dallas in the last few hours is genuinely one of the most shocking moves this franchise has made in years, and I am still trying to wrap my head around it. Before we get into this, hit that subscribe button, because here at Blue and Silver Nation we cover Cowboys news the second it breaks, and trust me, you are going to want to be here for everything that comes next. Now let me tell you what happened, because this is absolutely wild. Stephen Jones, the man running day-to-day operations for America's team, just pulled the trigger on releasing a star player from this roster, and the entire NFL is looking at Dallas right now, wondering what in the world is going on. This was not some fringe roster guy getting cut during camp. This was not a veteran on his last legs getting a courtesy release. This was a legitimate difference maker on this team, someone fans expected to be wearing the star for years to come, and now he is gone just like that. And the crazy part is nobody saw this coming. There were no rumors circulating about this player being on the trade block. There were no whispers about him being unhappy or wanting out. One day he was a Dallas Cowboy, and the next day he was looking for a new team. That is how fast this happened, and that is why Cowboys Nation is absolutely losing their minds right now on social media. So let me break down exactly what went down, why the front office made this call, and what it means for this team going forward, because there is a lot to unpack here. According to multiple reports that came out, the Cowboys brass sat down and evaluated their roster situation, looked at the salary cap numbers, looked at the production they were getting versus the money they were paying, and made the decision that moving on from this player was the smartest financial play for the organization. Now here is where things get interesting, because when you actually dig into the numbers, you can kind of see what Stephen Jones was thinking. The Cowboys have been walking a tightrope with their cap situation for a while now. They have big contracts on the books, they have guys who need extensions coming up, and they have holes on this roster that need to be addressed. So when you are in that position, sometimes you have to make brutal decisions about who stays and who goes. But here is what nobody is talking about. Just because a move makes sense on a spreadsheet does not mean it makes sense on the football field. And that is the debate raging right now across Cowboys Nation. You have one camp saying Stephen Jones is playing chess while everyone else plays checkers, that he is building this roster for sustained success, and not just one season, that the money they freed up is going to be reinvested into players who can help this team win a championship. And honestly, there is some logic there. The NFL is a business, and teams that ignore the salary cap end up paying for it eventually. You cannot keep every player you love, you cannot pay everyone top dollar, and sometimes you have to let talented guys walk to keep the overall roster healthy. That is just the reality of professional football. But then you have the other camp, and this is where a lot of longtime Cowboys fans are landing right now. They are saying this move proves that Dallas cares more about saving money than winning games. They are saying you do not let a player like this go unless you absolutely have to. They are pointing to all the times the Cowboys have been cheap at the wrong moments, all the times they let talent walk out the door, only to watch that player ball out somewhere else, and they are furious that it is happening again. And I have to be honest with you, I understand both perspectives here. This is not a black and white situation. This is complicated and messy, and there are valid arguments on both sides. What I will say is this: the next few weeks are going to tell us everything we need to know about whether this was a genius move or a massive mistake. Because here's the thing, if Stephen Jones takes that cap space and brings in players who can actually contribute, if he addresses the weaknesses on this roster and puts this team in a better position to compete, then we are all going to look back at this moment and say, okay, he knew what he was doing. But if the Cowboys fumble this opportunity, if they sit on that money or spend it poorly while this released player goes somewhere else and dominates, then Stephen Jones is never going to hear the end of it. The pressure is on, and the entire football world is watching to see what Dallas does next. Now let me talk about what this means for the locker room, because this is huge. When you cut a star player, it sends a message to every single guy in that building. And that message can go one of two ways. Some players are going to see this and think, okay, nobody is safe. I need to work harder. I need to prove my value every single day because the front office will move on from anyone. That kind of mentality can actually be healthy for a team. It keeps guys hungry and motivated and stops anyone from getting too comfortable. But there is a flip side to that coin. Other players might look at this situation and feel like loyalty means nothing in Dallas. They might feel like no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they give to this team, the organization will cut them loose the moment it makes financial sense. And that kind of feeling can poison a locker room real quick. The coaching staff is going to have their hands full managing this situation. They need to keep the team focused and unified. They need to convince the players that this move was made for the right reasons and that the organization still values them. That is not an easy thing to do, especially if there were guys in that locker room who were close to the player who got released. We have seen teams fall apart when roster moves create fractures in the locker room. We have seen guys check out mentally because they lost trust in the front office, and the Cowboys cannot afford for that to happen. Not this year. Not with the expectations they have. So how the head coach handles this over the next few weeks is going to be absolutely critical. He needs to be the glue that holds this thing together and keeps everyone rowing in the same direction. Now what about the player himself? Because he is not going to be sitting at home for long. League insiders are already reporting that multiple teams have reached out about his services. When a player of this caliber hits the open market, teams start making calls immediately. There is going to be a competition to sign this guy, and whoever lands him is getting a player who has something to prove. And let me tell you, there is nothing more dangerous in the NFL than a talented player with a chip on his shoulder. If he ends up in the NFC East with one of the Cowboys' rivals, this is going to get very interesting very fast. Can you imagine him coming back to AT&T Stadium wearing a different uniform and absolutely torching the Dallas defense? Because that is a real possibility now. And Cowboys fans better hope that does not happen, because they are never going to hear the end of it. So where does Dallas go from here? That is the million-dollar question. The front office has created some cap flexibility with this move, but now they actually have to use it wisely. There are needs on this roster that have to be addressed. There are positions where the depth is concerning. And there are free agents out there who could help fill the void left by this release. But here is my concern. The Cowboys have a history of being aggressive in theory and conservative in practice. They talk about wanting to compete for championships, but then they make moves that feel more about saving money than about winning games. If that happens again, if they pocket this cap space instead of reinvesting it into the roster, then this move is going to look really bad really fast. Stephen Jones needs to prove that there was a plan behind this decision. He needs to show the fans and the players that this was not just about cutting costs. It was about positioning the team to be better. Actions speak louder than words, and right now everyone is waiting to see what the Cowboys do next. I also want to address something that has been bubbling up in the conversation around this move. There are some people who think this is a sign that the Cowboys are giving up on this season, that they are already looking ahead to next year, that they do not believe this current roster can compete for a championship. And while I do not have any inside information to confirm that, I will say this. If that is true, if the Cowboys are punting on this season, then the fans deserve to know. Because there are people out there who invest their time, their money, their emotions into this team every single week. They buy the tickets, they buy the jerseys, they plan their Sundays around Cowboys football. And those fans deserve honesty about what direction this team is heading. Now, I do not think that is necessarily what is happening here. I think this could genuinely be a case of the front office making a tough financial decision that they believe helps the team long term. But I understand why some fans are skeptical. The Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since 1996. They have not even been to an NFC championship game in 30 years. And when you have that kind of drought, every questionable decision gets magnified. Every move that does not make immediate sense gets scrutinized. That is just the reality of being a Cowboys fan right now. The trust is not there, and moves like this do not help rebuild it. The only thing that is going to change the narrative is winning. And until the Cowboys start winning in January and February, every decision the front office makes is going to be questioned. Is this the move Dallas had to make? That is a question only time can answer. Right now, the reaction across the league is mostly negative. Former players are criticizing the decision. Analysts are saying the Cowboys let go of too much talent. Fans are frustrated and confused. But football has a way of surprising us. Moves that look terrible in March can look brilliant in December. Guys who get released end up underperforming with their new teams all the time, so maybe Stephen Jones knows something the rest of us do not. Maybe the Cowboys have information about this player that has not been made public. Maybe they see a decline coming that the average fan cannot predict. Or maybe they just made a mistake. That is the thing about the NFL. You never really know until the games are played. What I do know is that this story is far from over. We are going to be tracking where this player signs, how he performs, and how the Cowboys adjust to life without him. There are going to be twists and turns that none of us can predict right now. And I promise you, Blue and Silver Nation is going to be here covering every single development as it happens. Now I want to hear from you because your opinion matters. Do you think Stephen Jones made the right call, or is this going to haunt the Cowboys for years? Drop your take in the comments below because I read every single one and I genuinely want to know where you stand on this. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We are the fastest growing Cowboys channel on YouTube, and we cover every trade, every rumor, every breaking story the moment it drops. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and join the Blue and Silver Nation family. Here is my final thought on all of this. Football is the ultimate team sport. No one player is bigger than the star on that helmet. The Cowboys have been through roster turnover before, and they will go through it again. What matters is how the organization responds, how the coaching staff adjusts, and how the remaining players step up. This is an opportunity for someone else in that locker room to become a star. This is a chance for a young player to seize his moment and show the world what he can do. And that is what makes the NFL so beautiful. There is always another story waiting to be written, always another player ready to emerge, always another reason to believe that this could be the year. So yeah, this move stings right now. It feels wrong to a lot of fans, and maybe it is. But the Cowboys still have talent on this roster. They still have a coaching staff that knows how to win. And they still have a fan base that is going to show up every single Sunday no matter what. The story of this season is not written yet, and neither is the story of this move. Let us see how it all plays out before we pass final judgment. Until next time, this is Blue and Silver Nation, and we are just getting started.